Military personnel? What's the biggest culture shock you experienced moving to a different military base? North Carolina to Ramstein Air Base in Germany in 2018. Thought I knew what to expect. I was wrong on every level. First shock hit at the gate. German guards speaking fluent English, but with procedures I'd never seen. They actually smiled, made small talk. At Bragg, gate guards were stone-faced professionals who checked your ID and waved you through. Here they asked about my weekend plans. The barracks were my second wake-up call. Instead of the typical military dormitory setup, I got what was basically a studio apartment. Full kitchen, separate bedroom, balcony overlooking the German countryside. My room at Bragg was 8-10 feet with cinderblock walls and a roommate who snored like a freight train. But the real culture shock was the schedule. At Bragg, we did PT at 0630 sharp every single morning. Rain, snow, didn't matter. You showed up or you faced consequences. At Ramstein, PT was Monday, Wednesday, Friday only. And if it rained, weather cancellation, they'd announce. I showed up the first rainy morning anyway, stood alone in formation for 20 minutes before someone told me to go back inside. The dining facility blew my mind. Bragg's chow hall served basic military fare. Meat, potatoes, vegetables that had seen better days. Ramstein had a food court. Pizza, Chinese, Mexican, even a Subway. The German workers were friendly, remembered your preferences, asked how your day was going. I kept waiting for the catch. There wasn't one. Working hours were the biggest adjustment. At Bragg, we worked until the mission was complete. 14-hour days were normal. Weekends meant training exercises or additional duties. At Ramstein, they had something called family time. Work ended at 1700 unless there was a genuine emergency. Weekends were actually yours to enjoy. The social dynamics were completely different too. At Bragg, enlisted and officers maintained strict separation. You didn't socialize across ranks, period. At Ramstein, I watched lieutenants playing volleyball with sergeants at the base picnic. The base commander's wife chatted with junior enlisted spouses at the commissary like they were old friends. Leave policy was another shock. At Bragg, taking leave required months of planning, multiple approvals, and a valid reason. At Ramstein, my supervisor encouraged me to use my leave. Take long weekends, he said. Explore Europe, that's why you're here. I took a 4-day trip to Paris my second month there. At Bragg, I hadn't taken leave in 18 months. The local community relationship was remarkable. German civilians actually liked having Americans around. Kids would wave at convoys. Local businesses gave military discounts without being asked. Store owners spoke English and seemed genuinely happy to help. At Bragg, the surrounding towns tolerated us at best. Military personnel were seen as necessary nuisances. Training exercises were professional but relaxed. We maintained readiness standards, but without the constant stress and micromanagement I'd grown accustomed to. Commanders trusted their NCOs to handle business. Soldiers were treated like adults instead of potential problems waiting to happen. The strangest part was how effective everything was despite the relaxed atmosphere. Mission completion rates were higher than Bragg. Morale was through the roof. Retention rates were excellent. People actually wanted to extend their tours. At Bragg, everyone counted days until PCS. When I finally rotated back to the States 3 years later, the reverse culture shock was brutal. Standing at attention for an hour while some colonel lectured about uniform standards felt absurd after experiencing German efficiency and trust-based leadership. That assignment taught me the military could be both professional and humane. We could maintain standards without crushing souls. We could trust soldiers to be responsible adults. Most importantly, I learned that military culture wasn't universal. Each base, each command, each location created its own environment. Ramstein spoiled me for conventional military life, but it also showed me what was possible when leadership focused on mission accomplishment through people instead of mission accomplishment despite people.